Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session about moving your journey from CRM on-premise to Dynamics 365 custom engagement. This is an introductory session, so I will not be going in too much technical details, and that more information can be provided when you send me an email or catch me up on Twitter. So to start it off, then we have some sponsors and mandatory slides to show you how and who has been able to put this amazing event together, having 36 hours of content and users and speakers from all over the world. Over 300 plus speakers have I heard, over 400 plus sessions. Sounds great. Clearly something quite a first event for me to bring up as a speaker. But let's get started. This is me. I'm Vivian, coming from broadcasting live from Sønderborg in Denmark. Sønderborg is a small city around the German border. And I'm 29 as a mom and married in that order. Recently become mom, so I'm enjoying the life of having a 1-year-old and no sleep, so bear with me. I am an IT technical consultant, CRM, working on customizations and finding new solutions and possibilities for our companies called Linac AS CRM solutions. So a bit about the company. Linac is a company that produces electric linear actuators to create smooth movement in a variety of very different applications. They are probably most well known for making tables move up and down. So if you at work have a table that you can both stand at and sit at, then it's probably a table that has an actuator from Linac. Besides that, there's also a comfort line and medical, so both beds and tables, TVs, whatever you want to make move, that Linac actuators can make move, even if at first the product was not meant to be moved up and down or in different directions. So that was shortly about Linac. It is possible, if you're interested, possible to look up at linac.com to read more about that. I was asked to talk about one of my most interesting achievements so far. So that I chose, as I haven't I'm not done presenting here, then I can't add that as one of them. So I have added my latest quite big achievement, which is that I wrote a book about volunteering at the Summer Olympic Games in Brazil. That was, that for me, that was a life-changing experience, and having to see everything up close, meeting people, and actually just being part of something that's that amazing has been great. And then pulling myself together to write a book about it, that was an achievement on its own. I work with, or what things I found interesting is Scrum and low-code, no-code solutions. Here at Linac, we try to strive for as little code as possible, because more code requires more maintenance and more customizations, meaning that future integrations are not that easy to do, or it requires a heavy developer background to be able to do them. Of course, it's easy for the developers that have quite the baggage of knowledge within them. But if you are a new beginner, for example, trying to start up with CRM, then code is probably not the most preferable way to look into the future. And I'm also a certified Scrum Master, so Scrum is something that I strive for in different projects. Originally, I am from Tallinn, Estonia. Born and raised there. Then 10 years ago, moved to Denmark. And due to that, I also speak Estonian, English, and Danish. So I have quite a few different languages in my background, and also have been learning German and Russian. But yeah, probably cannot hold a conversation up there. So feel free to catch up with me later or ask questions on the way, and then we'll see how and if I'm able to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, I'll promise I'll figure it out, and drop me your email. I can answer it later to you. Also added my Twitter, so you can always catch up with me there. If you have any follow-up questions, want to know some more about the things I've been talking about here, then feel free to write me there. But let's get started with the interesting things. Can't tell, not too good at talking about myself, so let's talk about something else. So today the plan is to talk about cloud, what it is, what it represents, and if it is better than on-premise solutions. Also bringing out the cloud versus on-premise pros and cons. This will be primarily based on CRM and Dynamics 365 customer engagement solutions, but they also apply for everything, every solution that you try to move from on-premise to cloud. There are basically the first part, the cloud, and the cloud on-premise is something that is affecting all solutions, all companies, and just Dynamics 365 being one of them. And knowing that we are at the moment working on a Dynamics 365 on-premise to cloud project, then that is also there where I have my best experiences and examples from for you today. Besides that, is cloud the best option for everyone? Everyone keeps saying cloud, everyone keeps dreaming about cloud and saying how easy and nice things will be once they're on it and once they're on the journey to go to cloud. But cloud isn't a magical land that solves all issues. And for some companies, organizations, on-premise might still be the best strategy for now. I also drop into the different possibilities, for example, cloud first, cloud only, and on-premise strategy. But there are also hybrids of the strategies, so it isn't necessary for you to go all in on only one of them. After that, I will go into more detail about the fact that if you do want to upgrade your system to cloud, what does it require? Where to start? What to consider? Who to ask along for the ride? It is tough. It can be tough to take the decision that okay, now we're going to move our solutions to cloud, but where do you start? Yeah, and that is based on my experience and based on my opinions. These are the steps I will bring out, some checklists and ideas from you to start with, what you should consider before and during the projects, and who you can take along as a supporter or a primary partner for the upgrade project. Yes, I thought it would be a nice thing to find a quote or something that people have been saying about cloud, and I really much like the quote from Sunny Ghosh, director and CEO of Wolf Frameworks: "The end of fashion IT. Customers will only pay for value and not technology." So what it means here is that the cloud computing or the cloud is the end of fashion IT. Users and customers from now on will only pay for what they get. There will not be big investments as a startup, where you need to get your servers and developers and have people who know something to maintain them. So basically, the whole new system, the whole new world of cloud will be what you see is what you get, and what you want is what you pay for. So if you want a huge solution with all integrations and hostings and have a massive amount of data, then you will also pay more. Whether if you're a small startup that just wants a small platform to host their things on and to not having to create things from scratch, then you pay less. So there is no one solution fits all in cloud. But what is cloud? It is the metaphor for internet. If you, I think every one of us are using cloud computing on our everyday lives. It is basically just delivering every service through the internet rather than locally from your hard drive. So you do use a device like your phone, like a tablet, like your PC, but nothing is stored locally. So whenever a crisis happens and you click the wrong button and your computer suddenly gives you a blue screen, that doesn't mean that everything is lost. Everything is stored on the internet, so you can successfully access everything again from another device. And that is the magic of cloud. Yeah, John Gruber, UI designer and technology writer, has also said that the cloud is effectively an augmentation of our brain's memories. I also found that was fairly true and very well said. And as I said, you're probably using cloud computing right now, even if you don't realize it. If you use an online service to send emails, or if you edit documents online, watch films streaming, for example, listen to music, play games, or have your pictures stored on the cloud, everything is using cloud computing. It is not that obvious for people because no one really sees the background of it. If it is that it's easy to point out, if it's easy to use, that is the purpose of the cloud, that people do not have to have the hassle of knowing what is on the background and what services need to be running and what to do to keep things up to date. The first cloud computing services are barely a decade old. It is nothing, it isn't something that's old, it is rather new, but it is something that has exploded. But also companies from all over the world, from small startups to big organizations, have started to consider using cloud rather than using their on-premise services, just because they give so much more preferences. It gives them more security, and if done right, it also saves them a lot of money. This also, besides organizations and startups, it is also affecting governments. It is also everything, medicine, hospitals. Yeah, basically every aspect of your life is soon, and if not yet, in the cloud. In order to talk more about the cloud computing and its services, then I will go a bit deeper into the different aspects of cloud computing and the different services that you can find on cloud. This will now be a bit more technical, so if this makes, I try to make it as simple for you as possible, but if it gets a bit too technical, then please do give a shout out and I will try and improve it to more business and a bit high level. But I do believe that this is an important part to understand before you can really understand what cloud computing and what are the services that cloud can offer you. So first we have, we say cloud computing. There are 4 different types of cloud. We start off with public cloud. It is operated and owned by a third-party service provider like Microsoft Azure. So everything is hosted on the service provider. You public on service provider. You don't own anything. You just have a service agreement, or you basically just pay for different services, and they just do all the work for you. Next to that, we have a private cloud where it is resources that are used exclusively by one organization or company. With public cloud is that there are different companies, different organizations using the same resources, sharing the same resources, and if that is something that is not acceptable or possible for your organization, then it's always possible to choose the private cloud version where you have the possibility to use all resources exclusively by your organization. With private cloud, it's also possible to host things both internally and externally. So it is possible to have things still in the cloud, but hosted within your organization. Thanks to that, we have a hybrid that is basically just a cloud computing version that combines two or more different clouds. So it could be a hybrid between a public and a private cloud, or now I have also the community cloud. So it could also be a hybrid between community, private and public, or private and community, but all depends what fits to your organization. The hybrid cloud is a good solution for people that need aspects and flexibility and options from different aspects. For example, you're a government, you need to have things privately, but you also would like to have the community aspects and possibilities of it. Or for example, you are a non-profit organization working for saving animals in Africa. That is also something that you could benefit from having the community cloud, or you could join community cloud, for example, with a private cloud if you would like to keep things more your organization based. A community cloud is also, besides having having things in common, then it is also that people can share aspects. They can share everything that is on there. So if you start off as a small nonprofit, it could be that you end up in the end using resources that you never thought were possible just on your own. But not all clouds are the same, and not all types of cloud computing is fit for everyone. There are, like I mentioned, those 4 different types of services involved to help define the right solution and tools to fit your organization's needs. So it does not mean that when you go to cloud that you just have the possibility to, or you don't have any possibilities to choose between if you want to be public or if you want to be private, and you just have one space that everyone puts things into and you get lost. That is not the case, but that can be a bit scary when saying for the first time and hearing for the first time that now we're going to the cloud. Then it can bring out quite a lot of concerns. Talking about cloud services, then it is that there are also 4 different types of cloud services. The most basic here is the infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, as it's more known for the people in the IT world. Here you rent it is the most basic part. So here you just rent the IT infrastructure, so servers and servers and databases and data and yeah, everything that right now you have your backend, IT backend do from the service provider, and then you pay as you go. So the more you use, the more you pay. And if you just need a small part, then you just pay less. But the good thing about this is you don't have the initial investment to say that, okay, I have to look very much in the future to see how much I need to spend. But you can just start from day one and say, okay, right now I'm a small company, I don't have that many needs, but in the future it might be that I need way more capacity. So it is easily possible to scale your organization without having to do the in-house investments. Besides that, there is also something called Platform as a Service, or PaaS. That is that supplies an on-demand environment for testing or development. So you just get a platform that you can directly start developing on without having to figure out all the setup, all the background network, yeah, having to manage the underlying infrastructure of servers, storage, network, and databases needed for development. For example, these could be used to develop a framework, analytics, business intelligence. There is no need for you to make the connections and to worry about how to set things up before you can just begin to do your work. You just connect to it and then you do your work. Besides that, that is also something called serverless. It is basically the same as PaaS. It is overlapping with it. So it also is using or providing possibilities for platforms as a service. So, but it is one aspect of it. So it does not use servers, and it is the most scalable option that there is from there. So you are not depending on the size. And the last one is something called software as a service, or SaaS. Here is an example, for example, Dynamics 365 or CRM, which delivers software applications over the internet, typically on a subscription basis. So you buy the parts you subscribe to, you pay as much as you have subscribers, as you buy licenses, and you get what you pay for. Dynamics 365 is the example for the software as a service, because right now, Microsoft has moved to more gradual way of doing things. So you can buy things by a module, and you don't have to buy a whole package. So you basically are following the process of you get what you pay for, because you just can use a small part of the whole Dynamics system, or you can use it or buy the subscription for it all and use all the integrations and connections that come with having one tightly integrated system. So that was rather technically, but a bit about cloud. Now I'm moving on to the next part, wondering if cloud is better than on-premise, or is it just a hype? When talking about Microsoft part, then Microsoft has made cloud the priority for future developments. Every new feature, every new program, every new thing they buy, every new company they buy, they think about how it fits into their cloud framework. They do still and will continue for at least some time to support the on-premise solutions, and probably will also provide bug fixes if necessary, but their clear statement is that cloud is their priority, and that is where they want all the customers to move to. Cloud is yeah, as you hear, that has been a buzzword. It still is a buzzword that everyone is using, but it has also become kind of a common denominator for using cloud services. The reason why people have started to move to cloud is primarily due to security and flexibility and the guaranteed uptime of 99%. And that is taken from Microsoft page. I'm not putting my head on the block here. So that can be changed, but that is at least what they have been writing right now. The biggest concerns, at least for our company, when we try to, for the first time, pitch the idea of moving to moving to cloud, was the fact that you put everything out there, you put yourself out there. What if things go wrong? What if there's a hack? What if someone gets access to? How easy is it to get access to your data when it's not securely locked down in your basement? But that is also something that Microsoft, and for example, one provider for that is Microsoft Azure, has put a lot of effort in trying to kill all the myths that surround sorry, that surround the cloud and the security issues. It has been, depending, of course, on your organization. It is more secure to have things on the cloud than it is to have it on premise. You're not that dependent on your own internal resources, and you always have the possibility of getting in more help from different parts of the world, basically, and not depending on if the person you have hired to do these things is getting sick or just decides to quit one day. The flexibility is, for me, the most important part of thinking even cloud solutions, because you have the possibility to scale. You don't have to think 3-4 years into the future to where your company is going, or where you want your, for example, where is your CRM going. You don't have to think that, okay, right now I have 10 users, but it might be that in 3 years we will have exploded and suddenly have 300 users. What should we do? Should we already get everything in-house and do the initial investment now, or should we just take it when it comes? The thing with the cloud is likely that it's easy to be flexible. It's easy to scale up and down. So if you suddenly figure out that you need the possibility of having 600 users instead of those 20 you have today, that is a possibility that Microsoft can just on the background give you that infrastructure and give you the possibilities to still run your system smoothly, which in real life, if you have your on-premise system, takes a humongous project and investment to get going and do the scale. Guaranteed uptime of 99%. I don't think I have much to say to that, besides that can also be guaranteed in your own company if you're very certain about the people being there and knowing what they do. I hope you have those, but it is still having the whole world on your back rather than having 1 or 2 persons that sit in your company. To bring out more in-depth the differences between and the pros and cons between the cloud versus on-premise, I have done my best to find the good icons to represent the cloud and on-premise. So the cloud with a lightning bolt is representing cloud, and the house was the closest I could come to something representing on-premise. So I hope those have been are a bit clearer now. But the pros of cloud computing is having the monthly subscription rather than having to pay for everything in at front. You have your data stored in one of the Microsoft data centers, which have the possibility of tweaking some of the lines to make the performance and your data quality better. Of course, not the quality that you give them, so the quality of material in it, but it's more the technical aspect of it, that if you have subsidiaries all around the world, then you have the possibilities to use the data centers that are closest to their locations to improve the performance they have, for example, in their ERP systems or other services. So they don't have to connect to your server in, for example, Denmark, if they are working in China. There is no infrastructure for you to maintain. That is a sad aspect for all backend, because jobs or more tasks have been taken away from them. But it is also the way to secure that things are done the same way everywhere. So you don't depend on your developers and your backend. You hope, of course, you depend on the cloud and the people they provide, but they have people all over the world, so it's a greater chance that they find a solution. Business intelligence and machine learning is something that the cloud is excelling at, with so many integrations and possibilities to take data and analyze data. You have greater possibilities of using all those knowledges within your different systems to be able to provide more seamless flow for your users, and absolutely different services you use. For example, using the just typing in data in one environment where it just then glides over to the other, so you don't have to copy paste everything from one to the other. You have automatic data backups. One issue can be that companies don't have their strategy on data backups, and that is something that on cloud you get out of the box, and that is something you set up and you don't have to think about later. And remember, you will never have the question in your head that, have we backed up our data? Can we do the integration now and we're sure that all the data won't be lost? That is something you can be sure of with cloud, that you will still have it. With the cloud, you also have tight integration with other cloud products, as mentioned before, for example, with ERP and with your Dynamics 365 different CRM product, customer engagement products. You can use the data from one and have it run through the other. You can use it for business intelligence reports or everything you want without having to do a lot of manual work for it. And as I mentioned before, it's scalable. You don't have to do the big investment in the start and then huge projects to be able to scale up and down. It is something that you have already out of the box. And with Microsoft, you get updates. This can be a pro, it can also be a con for some companies, that it's always going to be up to date. You do not have the possibility to say that, okay, I will not do the upgrades now, I will do them in half a year when I have a project. At some point, you have the possibility to postpone some of the upgrades, but you will be pressured into upgrading at some point. So you don't have that much control over that, rather something that you would have on premise. One thing you would have on premise that I think is it's an important thing for some companies is the good offline possibilities. Cloud is very internet dependent, so you don't have the possibility of just taking things and doing them online, offline, and then expecting everything will work again once you get online. But that is something you could do from your on-premise. Yeah, you. Another thing is that you own your own data, and you have higher control over customizations. That is also the type I suggest for users to do, is to consider, is that if it is that you need a lot of customization, if it is that you can't do to use too much of what Microsoft has out of the box, then maybe cloud is not the way to go for you. Yes, and as I mentioned here before, that the cloud is very dependent on the internet, and the data, there might be some data regulation and restrictions that affect your company, that you are not able to have all your data on the cloud. Of course, you will have storage costs you will also have storage costs on your on-premise system, but it will be different. You don't on your on-premise system, you usually pay upfront for the servers and the space you have for your data, whereas on cloud, you just pay for the more data you put in, the more you pay. And the long-term costs, so cloud can have something that I would call hide costs, because or hidden costs, because it is you scale easily, you start using more options, more integrations, more possibilities for your system, and then you suddenly realize that you are running a huge system and it actually is rather costly. So whereas in on-premise system, you would spend more time figuring out what to add, and if you can even add something, so you have a better understanding of the cost already upfront rather than taking it in the long term. And but the cons for on-premise is the fact that you invest in an outdated technology, as mentioned. Then Microsoft is going cloud. Everyone is going cloud, especially after the COVID-19 epidemic here. Companies have started looking more and more towards the cloud, and people working from home. So investment in outdated technology is clearly a con for on-premise. Yes, and as I have slightly pointed out right now, is cloud is for everyone, but not for everything. So not every company has the possibility or can use the benefits from the cloud. So that is something that as an individual company, you should consider first before saying that, okay, now it's happening. Now I'm going all in on cloud. That might not be the best solution for each company. There are different strategies, for example, cloud first, cloud only, and on-premise, so which all have their pros and cons. Cloud first is when you figure out that whenever you create something, you think of cloud first, but if that doesn't fulfill your requirements, you move on to on-premise or custom development solution that you can host in-house. On-premise is, of course, something that you have total control over the resource and possibilities you do, either with human resources or hardware resources. If it is that you have an organization that works a lot with secure data, for example, banks or hospitals, then it might be that going on cloud does not feel too secure for you. Or if you have too many customizations that the cloud out-of-the-box solutions do not give you, then I think it is on-premise that you should start with or start to consider before you can take it to online or to the cloud. And cloud only is when you just go all in, say it is either done in cloud or it's not done at all. So yes. It's important to have a roadmap to see of your project and the solutions you are providing, to see if there is a possibility to move some parts to the cloud, or if it should still be on premise. And as the times move on, then it's important to evaluate that roadmap and the phases as you go along. So the lifelong question is I want to upgrade my system to cloud, but how do I do it? What do I need? Where do I start? That is something that every project manager, every application owner CEO is asking when they hear a lot about cloud and say, hey, that looks pretty smart, but how do I get to it? what do I have to do? What do I have to invest to? Is it expensive? Is it something that I have to spend a lot of time on implementing? Yeah, there's a lot of questions regarding that, but let me try and see if I can answer a few of them. So, where to start? Yeah, the starting point is kind of where you do, but I suggest, and these are also, as mentioned before, my based on my own experience and from my own personal opinions. So you should assemble a CRM implementation team. Right now, I take converting to cloud as a Dynamics 365 customer engagement or CRM perspective, as that is a project that we are currently on and have done. So the first step for me would be to assemble a CRM implementation team that has people from all different aspects of the business that can give you answers for a fulfilled solution. So people both from the IT, both from business, end users, something to know that this is the team that can answer all questions and create the solutions needed for you. And then document business processes and have a clear idea of objectives. Yeah, that can be a tough one if your company has not taken the approach of process way. If they don't have clear-cut processes, then that is the aspect that will take the longest period for the company to figure out. But I do like to say that it is important to start with your business processes, because you can start with the tools, but it might be that by the time you have your processes in place, that the tools might be irrelevant. They might not fulfill the requirements that your business and your users and maybe your sales or marketing team needs in order to be effective and bring in the most job and money as possible. It is also important to have a clear vision of your business objectives, analyzing your value proposition, customers, your segments, and channels to bring clarity to what it is that your CRM in cloud should provide and which integrations, for example, are needed. And then it's the evergreen thing of get green light from the management. Nothing will happen if you don't get the green light from the management, and it's always a good thing to actually have the moving to cloud mentality to already start from top to bottom. So starting from the top manager level to the end users. If you don't have support from the top level, then nothing will be as good as it could be. Having the green light of going all in and renaming and redoing the things to fit in the cloud to improve your processes is the best way of doing it. So get all your bosses on it. That's the step one for me. What to consider? Yeah. When you have done the first part, or when you have already considered the first parts of the project, then I would say you're already pretty good in place. And the next parts are just mostly the practical parts of how to run and what to do with the projects. Envision a roadmap for your upgrade. Evaluate where you are now and create a vision of how the upgraded system could look like. What are your customizations, and what are you running? What kind of connections do you have? What are your needs for the upgrade? This will be in tight cooperation between the IT team and the sales team to figure out the both technical and business upgrades to be able to create the best vision for your project. Next point is which approach to take for the upgrade. Do you want to do it in phases or just big bang and everything goes live in one day? Both have the pros and cons, but it is what fits your organization and the way your processes are. Big bang approach is a good thing if you just start off. If you go everything, if you do everything new in cloud than you are doing right now, then the users just have one thing that they need to learn, and it will be that one time they learn it, and then it will continue to remain the same. When in phases, it can be a long time where they have to put in the investment to try and work and do things all at once. But it also might be that some users prefer doing things in phases rather than having to learn everything from the scratch. That is the option that you need to figure out within your organization, looking at your users and the services you're providing. Figure out the scope of the project. Is it a one-to-one upgrade, meaning that everything you have on premise you will move to cloud, or you build everything from scratch? Here at LINAC, we have decided to go with the build everything from scratch scope. So our project is bigger than the one-to-one upgrade would be. We are evaluating all our processes and taking everything from new, making sure we take advantage of everything the cloud can offer us, and only using minimum customizations if possible. One-to-one upgrade can also, in my eyes, have the disadvantages of taking the legacy code, taking all the errors and all the mistakes you might have in the on-premise system, and that you move to the cloud, so that you hope that you get a better system with no errors, but the same things start popping up again. And that is something that we hope to avoid with build everything from new scope. And as the last thing, are the resources enough? Yeah, this goes both mostly for the human resources. Does people have time? Is there resources in the company to take up such a great task? Or if things need to be postponed or taken in phases where you just take small steps at a time, so you don't do a great project from the start. And who to ask along for the road? We have decided to have both Microsoft Fast Track and external partner along for the road, along for the travel. Microsoft Fast Track is an offer for Microsoft to help users go to the cloud. There is also a link in the slides where you can see the introduction to Fast Track, what they can offer, and when you can use them. It is definitely something that is not for everyone, because Microsoft evaluates if you have licenses enough, or if you are big enough to be able to go there that way. But using Fast Track, you have resources within Microsoft to actually help you with both the technical and the business aspects, with training, with finding solutions, figuring out why things are the way they are. And I think personally that is a very good resource for us, at least, to use, and something you can always write to or call up when you run into a deadlock on your upgrading ways. But external partner will definitely be your main partner. That depending how your own resources are, it might be that you just use all developers from an external partner, or if you have them do everything. So those two, I would say, would be the one. And now I've reached the end. Not sure if you have any questions, then shout out. We'll be here for about 10 minutes more to see if we can answer everything that you have. Otherwise, I would like to thank you very much for joining me, and I'm very happy that I could present this to you. And I apologize if it has gotten a bit too technical for some of you, but hopefully I managed to cover it all.